Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So on the home side, this one is half Hong Konger. On the away side, it's half English. And both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel several times before. In fact, this particular beer is the second of a two-part collaboration release that they did in May of 2024. But it's a style that I know both of these breweries can do very, very well. And it's got a little bit of a twist to it that we haven't had too often within this particular style category. And I will also point out that I have actually tried this beer before, but when I tried it on tap, it felt like it needed just a little bit more time to kind of mellow out and get to its prime. So hopefully when we have a look at it this time, it will be in that nice kind of sweet spot. But needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us this time. Hopefully it's as good as I remember. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for the home side of things then, we're going to go a little bit to the northwest of me here in Kowloon to Kwai Chung. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Yardley Brothers Brewery. So this particular beer is called Who the Fuck is Brett? It comes in at 7% ABV and it's a hazy IPA with Brettanomyces added into the fermentation, and it's also brewed in collaboration with Cloudwater Brewing Company from Manchester in England. So yeah, this one was released in early May 2024 along with the Brett's Day Off, and that was lovely actually. It was really, really nice on tap, and it was also very, very smooth. I thought it was actually even better drinking it out of the can, to be quite honest with you. So I'm curious to see how this one fares out of a bottle. So yeah, I think it could be really interesting, this one. But yeah, 7% hazy IPA, this one, with a little bit of Brettanomyces added into the fermentation. So let's crack on with it and see how we get on. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Yardley Brothers Brewery, and another link for my other ones that I've done from Cloudwater Brewing Company. We will no doubt add more to both of those lists at some point in the near future, but there's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist and also the English playlist, because it is kind of dual nationality. Those lists will be added to more over time, of course, as well, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries, because there are some very, very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Yardley Brothers first off then, since they are the home brewery in this case. So the Yardley Brothers Brewery was founded by Luke and Duncan Yardley, hence the name Yardley Brothers. But the brothers are half Scottish, half English, and Luke previously worked as a parts wholesaler, and he ended up staying in Hong Kong after meeting a girl, but then that relationship broke down, and then he married another Hong Konger later on, Ting Ting. But he and Duncan had homebrewed back home in the UK, and they took it up again when Duncan joined Luke in Hong Kong in 2014, and the main reason they did this was because they couldn't really get the beer that they wanted to drink themselves. So their first brewery was in a very small shack on Lamma Island, but then in December of 2016 they opened a production brewery on the 5th floor of an industrial building where the rent was really, really cheap, because you know the Hong Kong rental prices are just absolutely horrendous. But apparently when they moved the tanks in, they wouldn't fit in the lift, and so they had to get 8 people to help push them up the stairs to the 5th floor. But they stayed in this brewery for a number of years, and it was in the Kwai Chung area in the Wat Tat Industrial Centre, just to the northwest of Kowloon. But they've also got the Beer Shack bar out on Lamma Island, which is not the original beer shack that they were brewing in, I will point out. That's definitely worth going and checking out. And they've also got a tap room on Peel Street in Central these days, which is a really nice little venue, and I do recommend that you check it out. They've always got some interesting food on there. But in the last few years, they've been developing their barrel program, which they started back in 2018, and they moved to a new and larger brewery still in Kwai Chung to the northwest of Kowloon as well, and that was at the end of 2024. 2024, or mid-2024, that they moved in there. But as of May 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 160 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. These beers are all different styles. They've got some really, really interesting stuff, as I've mentioned to you, so they are definitely worth checking out. But for me, the best beers I've had from this brewery, I would say, are the sour beers. Luke really pulls off some really, really awesome sour beers, actually, so they are most definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Yardley Brothers Brewery for the moment. One of my favourite Hong Kong breweries, and definitely worth checking out if you find yourself over here. But yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on to the English side of things then and talk about Cloudwater Brewing Company. So Cloudwater Brewing Company were founded in early 2015 by Paul Jones and James Campbell after the latter left Marble Brewing Company, which was kind of the first Manchester craft brewery. But they were also joined in the early days by Al Wall and Will France, who brought with them a wealth of experience in home brewing, professional brewing and in bar management. So they built up quite an array of skills early on. But the original brewery is in the Piccadilly Trading Estate, and they began brewing there in March of 2015 and officially opened their on-site tap room a month later in April. But soon after this, they opened up an arch under Piccadilly Station, which was called the Barrel Store, and this acted both as a tap room and as a storage area for their barrel-aged beers, and it tended to be the more funky, sour things that you would get on tap in there. But in early 2017, they closed the on-site taproom to allow for an expanded production to meet demand, and then in July of 2018 they closed the barrel store to open a new space called Unit 9, which is adjacent to the brewery. But they initially started off with a 2,400 litre brew kit, and this has increased quite dramatically over the years. But James Campbell left the brewery in September 2018 to work as a brewing consultant, and then later he founded his own nano brewery called Cervezas de Autor. So I need to look out for some of their stuff. But for a period, they were actually contract brewing some of their bigger batch beers at Brewdog in Scotland to sell in Tesco supermarkets, but this arrangement only lasted from 2021 to 2022, and there was quite a few folk in the industry who weren't happy with Cloudwater doing that, you know, the independent shops and things that had supported them. But they've also added more venues over the years. This includes a tap room down in Bermondsey in London. They've got the Sadler's Cat pub in Noma near Victoria Station in Manchester, and there's also a new beer hall at Campus in Manchester as well, all of which serve a wide variety of different Cloudwater beers. But as of May 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced over 580 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. But some sources that I was reading to update these notes were saying that they'd produced well over 1,000 different beers. So I'm not sure what number to believe, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think that's everything we can really say about Cloudwater Brewing Company for the moment. So if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that's that for your brewery history section. Let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So we'll just wipe the sweat off the bottle here, because we turn the air conditioning off to do these videos because it makes a hell of a noise. But yeah, there you can see there's Brett having a good laugh on the front of the bottle there, which I quite like. You can see the Yardley Brothers symbol and also the Cloudwater symbol there as well, and it's of course got one of these old school Yardley bottle caps on it, and it tells you a wee bit about the beer on the back here as well. So yeah, it says brewed side by side with Brett's Day Off to explore the impact of different yeast strains. This hazy IPA was fermented with Brettanomyces yeast and New Zealand aroma hops. Brett adds a funky, farmy complexity, juicy wine-like acidity, and a touch of mystery. Who the fuck is Brett? Drink them side by side and scan or the QR code to vote. So I didn't vote on these because, you know, I don't like scoring beers, to be quite honest with you. I like more just focusing on the flavour. But I will say Brett's Day Off was pretty bloody good. So to tell you a little bit about the technical side of this beer, obviously the yeast used in this one is Brettanomyces. The aroma hops are Superdelic, Nelson Sauvin and Nectaron. If I remember rightly, Superdelic is some kind of blend of different oils and things like that. But yeah, Nelson Sauvin is 16% alpha acid, gives you that big white-green grapey note. Nectaron is a kind of new one on the scene, which gives you this big, I think it's about 14 to 16% alpha acid as well, and it gives you quite a lot of pineapple, but quite a lot of big orangey character from what I remember. Yakima 586 is one that I haven't heard of. Citrus in there as well. 14% alpha acid American. Up, and that gives you big juicy kind of mango and lemony characters in hazy IPAs. So yeah, some interesting things are going to come out of this one. But the malt base is Pilsner, caramel pills, wheat, caramel aromatic, and oats in there. So yeah, I think this could be quite interesting. Like I said, this one comes in at 7% ABV. It looks very, very nice. So let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. I'm very, very curious about this. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening there, and there we go. So this one looks interesting. Certainly a different colour from the last one. You can certainly see the difference there, but it gets, you know, it becomes a little bit more normal in terms of its colour the more that you pour out, actually. So yeah, let me just line that up so that my OCD is happy. But yeah, you can see that without giving it even too much of an aggressive pour, the beer doesn't have much of a head to it. It's got about a half finger of a kind of foamy layer at the top there. So I'll just bring that up to the camera so you can have a wee look. So yeah, nice little bit of kind of foamy bubbles on the bottom there, but it gets a little bit fluffier the further up that you go. But yeah, that has just got a little bit of a wispy layer. There's just a little bit of a kind of wispy layer on the top of this one and some big bubbles kind of sitting there. But the colour of this one's quite interesting. It's almost like a kind of peach juice type colour, and I always like comparing New England IPAs or hazy IPAs to different fruit juices because that's just what they remind me of. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But yeah, that you don't often have to care about that with different IPAs, to be honest with you. But yeah, the level of haze on this one's kind of about what you'd expect, to be honest with you, for a 7%, or not too soupy and gloopy, but level of haze in these beers depends on oat content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, all in all, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. If we shine the light through it, the colour does get that little bit brighter, but yeah, I think this one looks very, very nice. So gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the appearance of this one. Let's go on and have a wee look at the aroma. I'm very, very curious about this, actually. I've been curious about this one since I've let it mellow out, actually. Oh yeah, that smells really nice. It does smell very good at this point. I think we're in for a bit of a treat with this one, to be honest with you, because it smells a lot more mellow and a lot less green than what I remember it being when it came off the when it came straight out the tap and it was fresh. And of course, that's one of the things. Brettanomyces is a yeast that does some really nice things the older the beer gets. You know, Orval, of course, uses Brettanomyces, but this is a really interesting aroma, actually. The yeasty character in this is very, very interesting. But it's a lovely smelling beer. This is quite different from any sort of hazy IPA that you're going to come across otherwise. Yeah, so it's really interesting. You've got that big woody yeasty backbone to it. You've got a nice big bright green component, some soft juicy fruity characters. Yeah, all in all, this beer goes together very, very nicely. So gets a thumbs up from me on that aroma. But let's break it down and just describe it a wee bit more in depth for you. So the backbone of the beer for me, you have this like soft, fresh, white bready bread crust in there. There's definitely a wee bit like a brown bready character as well. But for me, there's a hell of a lot of woodiness in this one and quite a little bit of cracker as well. And that's one of the trademarks of Brettanomyces yeast, is that big woodiness and kind of crackery character as well. So yeah, the way that all of that sort of pieces together, I think, is really, really interesting. Yeah, that's the big thing that really stands out about this one. The other one was pretty much a kind of conventional New England IPA, to be honest with you, and it was, as I say, really, really nice. But yeah, above the bread crust, you just get a lot of woodiness, a lot of crackery character, and then yeah, above that, you start to get a little bit of that kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of thing. So yeah, a little bit of a wholemeal, brown bready kind of thing in there. Then you've got some nice white bready notes in it, but again, it smells kind of rusticy and kind of crackery and woody and stuff like this. But then yeah, above that, you can start to smell some of the wheat that's coming out of this one. So there's a little bit of a more bitey wheat at the back of the nose, but further forward you can smell that it's just that wee bit smoother. And the wheat's interesting because I think the wheat is amplifying that little bit of citric character that you're always going to get from Brettanomyces. So that's a little bit of something going on with that, for sure. Yeah, the way that goes together is really damn nice, actually. But on top of the wheat, you're definitely getting some of the oats, and the oats are a little bit hard to detect in this one, but you can smell a little bit. You can just smell a little bit of that creaminess in there. And as I've often said with hazy IPAs, the thing with oats is they're usually quite a crude but decent indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. Essentially, the creamier the oats are, the fresher the beer is, the drier the oats are, the older it is. So yeah, the way that pieces together is pretty nice. So yeah, on top of that, you do get a really nice, you get that little bit of creaminess out of the oats, but it does smell that little bit drier. But then above all of that, you can smell the kind of the caramelly notes from the Pilsner and the caramel aromatic. So probably the caramel aromatic malt's quite an interesting one. The other one, what was it called? You used to get, was it acidulated malt was another one that gave you this big kind of aromatic-y character. So it's quite interesting with this one. Some of the aromas that you get out of this beer are reminding me of some of the old Magic Rock ones that use that acidulated malt. But yeah, for me, you do get, above the oaty character, you get a wee bit of the citricy note coming out, but there's also that little bit of crispness from the Pilsner malt that's amplifying what the wheat and the citricy side of the beer are doing. But then you also have this, yeah, you certainly also have this little bit of, how would you say, you get a nice little bit of that kind of biscuity, caramelly type note coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, all in all, it's quite interesting just how all of that pieces together, actually. So yeah, interesting stuff. Definitely some interesting stuff in here. On the hoppy side of things then with this beer, for me, the green component on this one is quite, yeah, you can feel it's still quite bright, quite fresh, but I think it's mellowed out over the kind of 2-3 weeks that I've maybe had this beer sitting. I think it's maybe about 3 weeks actually at this point. But yeah, remember with the IPAs, there are 3 kinds of hoppings that you can do. Early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly bitterness and it gives you a deep dank aroma. But you've got late addition hopping, which gives you a little bit of bitterness but mainly flavour and aroma, and that gives you quite a bright green component in terms of your aroma. And then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, which gives you pretty much all flavour and aroma and, you know, very, very bright characteristics. So yeah, the way that pieces together, I think, is really, really nice. So on the yeah, the grassy and floral side of things in this one is really, really quite nice, and I think it's citricy notes from this aromatic malt and the Brettanomyces are kind of amplifying that a little bit. But there's a wee bit of earthy character, a little bit of herbal note, but yeah, mainly bright floral aromaticity and quite a zesty grassy character too. So yeah, that's quite interesting in this one. Let's focus on the fruity side of things though, just to round off our look at the aroma here. Oh, that smells pretty nice. Yeah. So the fruity side of things, it's interesting because while you have this big citricy note coming out of the beer generally, you do also get this nice, you do also get this nice big kind of So you get a bit of juicy mango out of this one, and there's a bit of peach as well, I would say, and that's going to be the citra I think that's giving you. There's a bit of peach and a bit of kind of citra, like juicy mango there, but I'm getting quite a little bit of soft apricot out of this one as well, which is really interesting. The pineapple from the nectar on this is quite apparent, but I think the Nelson Sauvin, that oily Nelson Sauvin character, is still lingering there. That white green grapey note at the front of the nose is absolutely lingering there, and you can smell a wee bit of an orangey character from the nectar on as well. I'm really not sure about the other two hops in this one, the Super Delic. As I say, I'm pretty sure that's a blend of a few different things, but the Yakima 586, I think that's going to be somewhere along the lines like Idaho 7, giving you a lot of these soft tropical characters. That's kind of what the aroma's leading me to believe anyway, more of a soft tropical kind of hop actually. I should have looked that up before I started the video, but you know, it's late at night and a little bit tired filming this one, so yeah. But yeah, the aroma of this one is pretty interesting actually. I think it smells great. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of this one, but certainly, yeah, that sort of funky, woody, crackery, citricy nature of Brettanomyces is quite apparent in this beer. So just take that bit of time to enjoy it. But yeah, let's taste this one and see what it's all about. This is the Who the Fuck is Brett, a 7% hazy IPA with Brettanomyces in it from Yardley Brothers Craft Brewery here in Hong Kong, and Cloudwater Brewing from Manchester over in England. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that's mellowed out really nicely. That has mellowed out very, very nicely. Yeah, like I say, when I tried this one on tap early on, the green, the hoppy character was just a little bit too green, and it wasn't letting enough of the Brettanomyces come through. But at this point, you're getting all the nice smoothness of the oats and the wheat and the bready, malty backbone, but you're also seeing the woodier, crackery, more funky side of the Brettanomyces, just because the hops have dropped back that little bit. So yeah, this beer, as I thought it would be, this one, reviewing it at the 2 or 3 weeks in the bottle, it's just at a very, very nice point now. So yeah, I think we caught this one right on. So yeah, reviewing these beers side by side, probably the case would have been that it probably would have been the case that many folk would say you know, Brett's Day Off was the better one. But given this beer a little bit of time, it's, you know, it has gotten up on par with the others. A little bit hard at this point to say which one is the best, because like I say, I think the other one you could drink fresh and it would be in really good condition, whereas this one I think does benefit from just that little bit of time in the bottle. But yeah, both very, very solid beers, and pretty much anything you get from Yardley's is going to be pretty damn solid, so that's to be expected. But yeah, this gets a thumbs up from me for sure. So let's break the beer down then and describe the flavour a bit more in depth for you, as we always do. So backbone of the beer, middle third of your palate then. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely, smooth, kind of white, brown bready bread crust in there. That is the backbone of your beer. Within that though, you have quite a little bit of this dry, woody character. It reminds me of if you put like some, you know, some kind of oak chip or something like that in your beer, but it's maybe not quite as sweet as what you're going to get from oak chips. But yeah, that woody character from the Brettanomyces is very, very evident in this one, particularly as you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, it's really, really nice. If you go above that kind of woody, bread crusty layer, I think the wood becomes more prominent the further into the aftertaste that you go. But yeah, you've got that bread crusty note in there, the woody notes. Then above that, you've got a more kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of thing coming out of this one. So yeah, a lovely kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of note in it. But then yeah, above that, you've got a nice kind of fluffy, white bready character as well. So yeah, I do like that. Within that sort of fluffy, white bready character though, you do start to get a wee bit of a more kind of Jacob's cream crackery note out of the beer, and yeah, that becomes a bit more apparent into the aftertaste as well. But yeah, that really is very, very nice. On top of that, you have the wheaty layer coming out of this one, so you can feel that more dense white bready character from the wheat malt in there, and the wheat's very smooth actually, but at the back of that middle third of the palate you do get a little bit of bitiness out of it. And remember that generally sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So yeah, you can feel that more dense wheaty character on top there, but then above that you start to get some of the kind of Pilsner malt and things. You can feel that little bit of Pilsner malty bitiness at the mixing in with the wheaty bitiness there as well. But then above the wheaty layer you start to get the oats, and so down the middle line of your palate you get that nice kind of creamy oaty character there, and as you move out toward the edges of the palate it's just got a little bit of a kind of drier character to it, which is quite nice as well. So yeah, the way that pieces together I think is very, very nice. In the dead centre of your palate there's a little touch of that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing going on, and there's a wee bit of like McVitie's digestive biscuit as well as you go further out toward the edges of the palate too. But it's quite interesting with this beer just how complex the middle third of your palate actually is, but when you've got Brettanomyces involved that's kind of to be expected, to be honest with you. But I think at that we've said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate. So let's go to the back third of the palate, and generally speaking the back third of the palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate. So yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate. So yeah, you got a nice little bit of bready build up in there. There's the wee bit of brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, but then yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got the nice kind of woody character in this one. So yeah, nice little bit of woody character in there, a little bit of a kind of crackery note as well, and then yeah, you get the bread, so you've got the bread crust, the wood, the cracker, then yeah, you've got that brown bready layer which feels a little bit lighter and taller and more airy, then you've got the white bready layer which feels a little bit lighter and taller and more airy as well, and both of those have got a little bit of a cracker in it as well. So yeah, I like how that pieces together. But then on top of all of that, on the back third of the palate, you start to get some of the bitier character of the wheat just going over the top of it. So yeah, I like that with this one. So yeah, the way that goes together is really very, very nice. But yeah, on top of all that, you start to get more of the yeasty character out of this one, and this is always interesting with Brettanomyces. So at the dead centre of that, you have this nice, yeah, you certainly have this nice kind of dense, crusty, wholemeal brown bread, and then around the edge of that, you get a little bit of a sweeter white bread, and then the very edge, you've got this kind of slightly toasty, bread crusty type note. And it's almost just got a little bit of a crackery character to it as well at the edge. So definitely, yeah, back third of your palate you can feel the flavour is taller, then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the flavour is really interesting in this one. On the hoppy side of things then, the green component of this one is quite nice too. You get a little bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate, and as you move further forward it's just that little touch herbal, and as you push toward the front corners of your palate it gets more kind of bright and floral and aromatic for sure. So yeah, on the floral side of things, the floral aromaticity is quite nice and bright, but not too pungent, if that makes sense. But round the front curve of your palate, there's quite a wet, like fresh cut grass type thing going on. A little bit of zestiness to it, but not overly much, I would say. So yeah, the way that this all pieces together, I think, is really, really very nice. So on the hoppy side of things, the fruity side of things, in that front third of your palate then. The border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there again. Brown bread in the base, white bread on top, and then a wee bit of the wheaty bitiness. And the base of that front third of the palate, you've got the bread crust and the woody character in there, the brown bread, the white bread, the wheat, and a little bit of the smooth oat, and then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, let's have a wee look at that fruity side of things then, just to round off. So yeah, the Nelson Sauvin I think becomes more and more prominent in this one. But yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, you've maybe got just the tiniest little hint of peach and passion fruit in there. I think that's the Citra that's going to give you that. But then yeah, as you move further forward, you get nice juicy mango, lovely big soft dry apricot in this one, quite a little bit of oily pineapple as well. But then yeah, as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's more about the kind of soft white green grapey notes of the Nelson Sauvin, to be honest with you. And that lingers into the aftertaste. You get more and more of the oily character out of the Nelson Sauvin. The Nectaron, I think, takes a little bit of a back seat, to be honest with you. But yeah, the way just all of that goes together, I think, is really, really nice. So gets a big thumbs up for me. Lovely beer, this one. Definitely a lot better with 2 or 3 weeks age on it, just to let it mellow out a wee bit, than it was straight off on the tap. But yeah, really good stuff once again from Yardley's, but not surprised. Yeah, let's round off the whole review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer is right in the middle of the spectrum, mid-bodied, smooth carbonation, just a little bit of a prickle to it. The beer tastes kind of quite clean in a sense, but it still has a wee bit of that kind of smooth creaminess and stuff that you expect of the New England IPA. But yeah, let's have a wee look just at the kind of IBU and things like that. Well, it actually tells you on the back it's 18 IBU. Would I have guessed that? I think with this one, the green component's very wet, so I might have guessed that this was a wee bit less, or either that or I probably would have said it was the kind of fairly standard 30. Yeah, but as I say, it tells you on the bottle. But the malty backbone in this one, as I say, you get a bit more kind of smoothness and dryness out of this one into the aftertaste, which is interesting. The backbone is a little bit drier, smoother in the middle, a bit creamier on top, and a wee touch of sweetness in there. We've been over the green component, and the fruity side of this one is quite nice actually. As I say, a nice little bit of oily white green grape from the Nelson Sauvin. Good little bit of soft tropical fruit as well, which I find very, very nice. But all in all, really, really nicely done beer, this one. I think it's a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this. This has been a really interesting one to try, I have to say, and it's a lot better in the bottle and stuff than I remember it being on tap. And I said the same actually. I told Luke that about the can, that I thought it was a wee bit better out of the can than it was on tap. So yeah, I think the same goes for this one, to be honest with you. I feel it's mellowed out really nicely. But yeah, this one was the Who the Fuck is Brett, a 7% hazy IPA with Brettanomyces added into it, brewed at Yardley Brothers Brewery in Kwai Chung in the New Territories here in Hong Kong, in collaboration with Cloudwater Brewing Co from Manchester in England. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Yardley Brothers and from Cloudwater as well. And we will no doubt return to both of these breweries at some point in the fairly near future. But until the next time, sláinte, skål, cheers, and I will see you guys in the next one. Ciao just now.